The Arizona State Sun Devils continue to make history. Not only did they go out and win the Big 12 championship their first year in conference, but they also made the college football playoffs for the first time in school history. And that's all in thanks to one man, their head coach, Kenny Dillingham. The reason I'm making this video, Kenny Dillingham has turned around the program overnight. In only 2 seasons, he was able to take Arizona State from a 3-win team at the bottom of the Pac-12 to having 11 wins in 1 season. And the run doesn't end there, because who knows how far this team makes it in the playoffs. What I will tell you is that no one could have foreseen the amount of success that Arizona State was going to have in 2024. If you go ahead and look at the preseason poll for the Big 12, everybody had Arizona State finishing 16 out of 16. And yet here they are at the top of the conference. And like I said earlier, the reason that Arizona State has continued to shock the world is because of their head coach. The energy this man brings on and off the field is one of a kind. In fact, in an interview a couple weeks ago, when asked about being picked dead last in the preseason rankings, he says, "I don't care about any of that. The same people who picked us to suck say we're good now, and that'll be forever. You can't get blinded by other people's expectations of yourself. Just got to be the very best version of yourself and see what happens." And he's lived by those words. And I feel as though that's the reason so many Arizona State players are having breakout years. You could take a look at their running back, the man who was in the Heisman race, Cam Skattebo. He finished top 10 in Heisman voting, and that's because of the amazing season he had over there with the Sun Devils. In his second season with Arizona State, Cam Skattebo went out and had 263 carries, 1,568 rushing yards, averaged about 6 yards per attempt, and 19 rushing touchdowns. And that's not even mentioning the yards he got through the air, because if you include those, he got an extra 506 receiving yards, an extra 3 touchdowns, and had 37 receptions. No one is talking about how great of a season he's having because he got Ashton Jeanty going crazy in Boise State, but that shouldn't take away from the fact that Skattebo is putting up phenomenal numbers, and he did it in a Power 4 conference. Something that can't be said for Ashton Jeanty. I mean, Cam Skattebo is truly remarkable, and this team would not have won as many games as they have without him, because he's the engine of this offense. It doesn't go unless he goes. And he's been doing this for a few years now. In fact, he came over in 2023 with Kenny Dillingham, because he was having his first season at Arizona State at the same time that Kenny Dillingham arrived. He was one of Kenny Dillingham's first recruits, and last season he had far less carries, only about 164, but he still had 783 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns, plus an extra 286 receiving yards just a year ago, and his numbers only seem to climb. Hell, this man has worked from the bottom up, because while this may be his senior season, he spent the first 2 years of his collegiate career in an FCS school, Sacramento State. Of course, Sacramento State is looking to become an FBS school, but anyway, in his first seasons with Sacramento State, Cam Skattebo went out and had 500 rushing yards in 2021, and then doubled that, nearly tripled that, having 1,372 rushing yards in 2022. And those kind of numbers were exactly what Kenny Dillingham was looking for when he first became the head coach of Arizona State. That's a big reason as to why he brought him along for this journey. And to see those two having success together is incredible. And I'm sure they've had far more success than they imagined was even possible when they paired up 2 years ago. And we'll talk more about Arizona State in a second, but for right now, I just wanted to remind you guys to slow down, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000, and every subscription is greatly appreciated. If you subscribe, I won't have to record in a car anymore. Alright, now let's get back to this video. You see, it isn't only Cam Skattebo that's been overperforming for Arizona State. It's also been their quarterback, Sam Lavin, who's had a bit of an interesting journey. You see, in his freshman season, he was a backup quarterback at Michigan State. Of course, he decided to redshirt, and he did get a few reps in game. However, Michigan State just wasn't his home. So he decided to have a fresh new start in his second season with Arizona State. And who brought him over? Kenny Dillingham. He's been one hell of a recruiter. And it's not like Sam Leavitt was handed the starting job. This is something he had to work for. But after earning the starting job, Sam Levitt has balled out this season. He's one of the big reasons as to why no one could have foreseen Arizona State's success, because his play has been unimaginably great. He's gone out and had 24 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions, a fantastic TD to interception ratio, all while throwing 2,663 passing yards on about 304 attempts and averaging a good 63% completion percentage. And he also does some work on the ground, because Cam Skattebo isn't the only one that can run on this offense. Sam Levitt has gone out and rushed for about 383 yards, averaging a good 3.9 yards per attempt, and has had 5 extra touchdowns on the ground. Sam Levitt has willed this team to a handful of their victories so far, and I'm sure no one is more appreciative of that than their head coach, Kenny Dillingham. Now let's take a look at some of Arizona State's biggest wins so far, because they've had a good number of top 25 wins this season. They've earned their spot at the top of the Big 12 and a bye in the college football playoffs. Something that most people disagree with is the fact that Arizona State has a bye. However, they're much better than ACC's champion, and they'll prove exactly that when they go up against Texas. But anyway, their first big win of the year had to come early on against Utah, who was projected to win the conference. And against Utah, they got it handed to them. Cam Rising sucked ass. He threw for 3 interceptions. Shout out Arizona State's offense. Cam Skattebo exploded for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns, all while Sam Levitt led their offense, throwing 154 yards, with the majority of those going to their number 1 receiver, Jordan Tyson, who had a good 84 yards and 1 touchdown. And this was only the beginning for Arizona State, because later in the year, they would have 2 tough back-to-back matchups. The first being against 16th-ranked Kansas State. And in this game, Arizona State tried their best, especially Sam Levitt, who went out and threw for 275 passing yards and had 3 touchdowns. He torched Kansas State's defense, and he did it early. He had 1 touchdown in the first quarter and 2 more in the second quarter, and once Arizona State got off to that 21-0 lead, it was lights out. And their next game would come against BYU, who was ranked 14th at the time. And BYU had the conference championship in the palm of their hands before they lost to Arizona State. Now this was all Cam Skattebo. 147 rushing yards while having 3 touchdowns. Couldn't ask for anything more. And Arizona State did this by getting out to another early 21-0 lead, a lead in which they just wouldn't give up, as they would win 28-23. Now, Arizona State's final big win of the year would come in the Big 12 championship against Iowa State. And everybody projected that this game would come close, but that Arizona State would come out on top, and that's exactly what happened here. In fact, it was a massacre. Sam Levitt and Cam Skattebo both had great games. Now, of course, Arizona State did keep up the tradition of scoring first. However, this was a back and forth battle, and they wouldn't be able to blow the lead open until the third quarter, because in between the second and the third quarter, they ended up scoring 5 times in a row. They took the game from a 10-10 tie to 10-45. They had 35 unanswered points, and those were all touchdown after touchdown after touchdown for Arizona State. And of course, once that lead was blown open, it was all garbage time minutes from there. But anyway, that is how Arizona State won the Big 12. And that's why they are now going to play Texas in the second round of the college football playoffs. Out of all the teams left, I think that Arizona State has a great chance of taking down Texas. And if they can get past Texas, anything is possible. I really do believe that Arizona State could be national champions. We've seen crazier things happen before. But anyway, that's about it for this video. I think I've covered everything I've wanted to about Arizona State, so I'll catch y'all later, and maybe next time I won't have to record in the car, who knows. But anyway, deuces.